Got it. Welcome to this weekly non-duality Zoom and live stream with Don Garland and me. Thank you for coming. Please keep your microphones muted until invited to speak. This is being shared live on YouTube, so by asking a question, you are giving consent. We encourage you to raise your hand virtually after the brief introductions by unmuting yourself and turning on your camera. And alternatively, you can write your questions in the chat or in the YouTube live stream. This is for entertainment purposes only. So if you'd like to participate, like I just said, you can unmute yourself, turn on your camera and ask your question or type it in the chat. And thank you everybody for being here. And with that, I will pass it to Don Garland, please.
Oh yeah, a quick introduction on non-duality, which many of you will have heard before. So non-duality is the end of puts an end to the historical self. It's the end of seeing oneself as a person. It's not replaced by anything. So you go about your daily life, moving through space and time. So you think, and then suddenly there's this collapse of the self, and the collapse of the identification with the mind, with history, with past and the future, with thought, with feeling. And it's seen that there is no one. So there's no one here, there's no one there. It's just seeing that life is happening and happening for no one. So it's just arising. And that is very nice, very beautiful. It's described often in the Bible, it's described the peace that passes understanding, this beyond the mind, this can't be comprehended. We can try to talk about it, which we're trying to do, but it is beyond that. So it's really experienced. It's experienced by no one. And the essence of it is love. So that in the experience of this, there's an in loveness with everything, and that includes everyone that you meet. So there's a genuine communication. When there's communication, it's with the whole being. It's communicating to no one from basically love communicating with itself. So it sort of has this depth of authenticity to it. It's almost as though, because it restores intimacy to life. The intimacy is there with the person behind the counter in the corner shop, as much as it is almost with the closest person to you. There is that equality of intimacy with all things. Of course, there's deeper relationships with individuals that you have relationships with, intimate relationships, friendships. But but there's this a kind of honesty of expression there. That's what I think, unless in the case perhaps where your identity is founded on power, you related through power rather than love, only through power. If that was the case, then that will probably more likely to continue. But for most people, when the collapse happens, the relation is through love. And it's a very different experience because there's no one to gain anything from this. So in a way, there's no desire to convert. There's no desire to pass this message on. There's no desire to tell someone about this, to let it be known, to push this, to create a dogma. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's there's a real freedom in this. And so there's a real, like, total acceptance of the other, and no need to convey the message. So in that way, it's beautifully free. There's a freedom in this, and just meeting someone kind of where they are, and that's very nice. Yeah, I don't know what else to say at this point. So maybe I'll hand it over to Walter.
Okay. Thank you, Dawn. Just briefly, my experience was I was seeking happiness and peace through externals, through getting what I thought would bring happiness, through getting other people to do what I want, or getting myself to do what I want, or getting circumstances to fall into place. And this was all done through will and effort and volition and all kinds of means of trying to control life and to mold life into what I thought I needed it to be for me to be happy. And when this falling away of this separate self, this belief in the separate self, a separate self that had free will and choice and volition, there was just a seeing that life is just happening to no one by no one. And that revealed what's called the peace that passes understanding, the peace that isn't dependent on things going my way. It's just a peace that life is living itself. And that whatever's happening is just what's apparently happening. And it's not a intellectual understanding. It's not something I apply in my life like, oh, that's just what's apparently happening, so I don't need to be upset about it. It's more just like this flow of life, that life is just being lived, life is just happening. There's no one in it. There's no individuals in that. And so a lot of those ideas about controlling circumstances and outcomes and being dependent on other people, or dependent on, let's say, positive reinforcement or that kind of stuff, fell away. And it was just seeing that this is absolutely perfect, whole and complete, just as it's appearing. And it's like just a candle flame that doesn't flicker, or a river that continues to flow. It's just a seeing that there's no swimming against the stream. There's just the stream. There's only this. I used to hear that it's like a fish searching for water. But it's not even that, because the fish is separate from the water. So it's really just, it's just water. There's nothing apart from it. There's no separate independent entity. Now, those thoughts can arise that I wish things would be different. Feelings can arise that, something is uncomfortable, but that's also this. That's also this great perfection. So I guess that's it. So with that, let's open it up for questions or comments. Got a few in the chat. But if you're in the Zoom, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. So let's start with, let's see. I have a question. If this message is all about love and the divine, what do you say to people that say, why do you charge people for online meetings if time doesn't exist and no one is? Better than another, if they ask you, how can you actually charge people for this? What would you say? Do you have any opinions on charging for meetings?
Well, we wish we charge. We wish we were charging. Well, yeah. The character continues to. I mean, life for the character continues in time. Time within the timeless. It's not within the timeless, but it's a way of speaking about it. So, yeah, normal life continues. Time is precious. Your time is precious. It's like if you're giving away stuff for free, you're probably going to get, apart from these talks which you enjoy, so that's a kind of payment if you enjoy something and you've got the free time to do it. But in certain circumstances, yeah, you want paid for what you do. You know it yourself. You know, you're working for nothing. You might get a bit pissed off at some stage, you know. So yeah, it's valuing your time. It's the same as it's the same for anyone. This, you know, it's got nothing to do, of course, with life. Just goes on as before. Basically it does, but it goes on for no one. So it's not about payment or no payment. It's, you know, if you want to be paid for something, you'll probably feel that that's important. And if you don't, you won't. But we all want some sort of payment of something from whoever we're engaging with, whether it's just the sharing of love, the sharing of ideas, the sharing of I don't know, a transaction of some kind. There's always, you know, or just being, whatever it is, there's, you know, otherwise we move on because we get bored, and no one gets bored after awakening, of course, but there is a kind of, we go towards what we like. I mean, that's normal. The normal stuff still happens, you know. I don't know, what else can you say? It's very, very ordinary, this, like, you know, and spiritual stuff is no different. I mean, there's these ideas about it being for free. Some people have these ideas that it should be given away, but that's just an idea. That's an idea in the head. It's no different than anything else. It's not, it's as much a commodity once you speak about something as anything else is, you know. But this is just for fun, and kind of fun. And what do you think, Walter? What do you reckon?
Well, I definitely have financial needs, even now more than ever, and financial, let's say, challenges. So if somebody does donate, it's helpful. I mean, there's still a human being here, you know, paying bills and everything else. You can say there's no one here, no one's paying bills. Bills are being paid or they're not. There's financial challenges or not, but it's still this apparent life that requires money. And what can you say? You know, my philosophy's always been to just put it out for free, have the PayPal there, and if anyone has the means and is able to, they can contribute. I certainly didn't have the means and availed myself to as much free content as possible. So I'm very empathetic with those that can't afford it. But so there's no pressure to contribute, but it's always nice when people do. So I don't know what to say. I don't see any conflict with non-duality and, you know, people who have Patreons or do retreats for, it's time is valuable, in that sense. Although he's saying there's no time. So anyway, what are you gonna say? It's like there's no time, but it depends. It's a confusion of the absolute and the relative, and this relative apparent dream existence, bills need to be paid, and it's nice to get donations. So there you have it. Let's see, next question. Did you practice something or listen to someone that made the shift happen? I would say for me, I did a lot of listening to things and practicing, but when the shift seemed to happen, it didn't seem like it was connected to anything. It didn't seem like it was based on anything. It seemed very spontaneous and natural and organic and just, so I kind of can't connect it to anything in that sense. I think the listening and the reading of things helped me maybe know what had happened, so I wasn't completely like confused by it, and I knew where to go to commiserate with other people who've had similar happenings or shifts. So it's helpful in that way to have that background, but I don't think it caused the shift. How about you, Dawn?
Yeah, well, in the story of time, where you can kind of talk about what happened, and and it for sure, like I could say it seemed like there seemed like a lead up to this in that story. Of course, there's no story, nothing happened, nothing ever will happen. That's the seeing. So of course, nothing causes this, the permanent shift, the falling away, the total collapse. It's just what happened. So I was sat. There had been a lot of suffering when I was sat with a non-duality speaker, and in a cafe, we looked into each other's eyes, and boom, my heart opened. There was just bliss and love, and that continued for about a week, seemed to intensify. And then there was a seeing of nothing and everything. And so I could say that was the spark, in the story of time. But I don't, because the seeing of this is a seeing that there's no one, so no one could bring this about. But nevertheless, that's the story. And I like those stories. They're interesting because there can be this opening up, this kind of glimpses very often associated with the gaze, or, with certain situations that an openness in the person seems to be there, that can seem to spark off spiritual experiences, if you like. But the permanent shift itself is a seeing that nothing really happened, so it's kind of, but I wouldn't say it's a cause. Even in the story of time, it's not like that, but yeah, that's what happened here anyway. That's where it started. It started with a look, a gaze, not a gaze, which is powerful, and it is a technique, but I didn't know about the technique when I did it, because it was initiated by me, because I just wanted to look in the eyes, and and there it goes.
There it goes. Okay, this one's for you, Don. Listening to lots and lots of videos about non-duality, one thing caught my attention in a way that this is a nice moment to make some clarification from Don. Some compared this state with a medical background, education, and depersonalization, derealization state. What is Don's opinion about that? And is there any similarities to put those things like similar? Thanks.
Depersonalization. Well, okay, so depersonalization, derealization, disassociation. I mean, this is about being totally present. This isn't about being somewhere else. This isn't an uncomfortable feeling, although in one or two cases, the case of Suzanne Segal, there was awakening and there was fear, but those cases I suspect are quite rare. So it's not a psychiatric condition, you know. It could be seen from the outside like that. By description, it sounds like that, but it's not. It's wholeness, it's love. So we know that love is healthy. I think everybody knows that. So it's the collapse is love. That's what it is. That's at the heart of it. So it's about being there. It's not about going somewhere else in the mind. Dissociation could be going somewhere else in the mind. It could be leaving the body. Our body experience could be defined as that. Like a bliss state might be seen as disassociation in a way, but that would be to pathologize it. It's a pathologizing term. And that's the way it's tended to be used. So, you know, you may look very dissociated in a bliss state because your eyes are going to look for, you know, pretty empty, and it can be seen. It can visually be seen. I know that people saw that. Mine with therapists, people I know who are therapists who sort of thought that was my trauma taking off or something. I'm like, yeah, it's the opposite of trauma. It's just being fully present to everything. Like, I'm not saying non-duality is like that all the time, because you can get lost in thought and not, you know, after awakening you can, but the bliss states and the empty mind, obviously there's nothing in the way of that. So, but usually the awareness is increased, so there's much more presence there, there's much more being present there. But yeah, people may well see it in terms of something pathological, so you have to be careful who you speak to, and maybe don't look so blissed out when you're blissed out. If you're in the wrong environment, just, you know how to look normal if you need to. Yeah, maybe, but you probably won't care if you're blissed out. I never did, so I don't know what else to say. But yeah, I mean, it's not about this being less real. It's about it being unreal, real and unreal. It's the only reality we have. So derealization, it's real, but it's unreal at the same time. So it's, you know, and there's nothing happening. So it's beyond all that. It's beyond all these kind of suffering type categories that kind of cut you off from reality or distort reality. It's beyond all that. It's not a psychological thing. It's not a trauma thing. It is groundedness. It's wholeness, in which trauma can arise, in which disassociation can arise. You can read a page of a book and go, what the fuck did I just read? You know, anybody can do that. And, you know, if you've got ADHD or something, you might do that. You might zone out, you know, like, so those things can continue, but they're less likely to, or less often, or they won't get in the way of this. That's about what else to say on that. I don't know. What about you, Walter? Have you got any comments?
Not on that one, but let's see. Next one says, no one is here to donate. You know, the no one is here. It's when that's seen by no one, of course, it's that there's no doer, there's no author, there's no autonomy, there's no separate individual, no ghost in the machine. It's very powerful to see that life is being lived, but there's still this apparent body-mind organism going to work and trying to earn a paycheck so he can pay his rent. It's just, I'm not doing that, but it is apparently being done. So donations can happen or not. Yes, you're right. There is no one there to donate, but there is an apparent person that can do that, you know. And if I just think it gets ridiculous after a while with all the, you know, well, who's going to do that? Who's going to do this? I find people who obsessively say that, you know, are still seeking and are just using these words just to, I don't know what they're using them for, but it's not, if that's been seen, then there's no need to obsessively say there's no one here. It's either realized or it isn't. And, but then, there's still life being lived. Life goes on. And it was always this way. There never was anyone. That's the point. So I use the example of tying my shoes. I've never tied my own shoes. I've never done anything. I've never said anything. But things have been said from this apparent mouth. It's just, I've never done that. I've never authored a thought, but thoughts appear. It's just, so if there's confusion about that, then there's confusion about that. But anyway, what can I say? Lucio raised his hand. Jump right in. Long time no see.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Still my morning, so. Yeah, so you guys are still here talking about that which can't be talked about. Naughty, misleading so many people. So many people. I'm just kidding. I'm glad you guys are still sharing. My question is to Dawn. I've heard you say like absorption a few times. I think I know what you're talking about, but you don't look for that, do you? Or is that something that you know how to prompt something like that? Like you get home from work and say, well, I'm going to do about 45 minutes of absorption and then maybe go to the gym. All right.
Okay, so you get what I'm saying. So absorption is.
Can you describe it? Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
Yeah. Just for those who don't know, like, instead of being, because most people can identify with being absorbed into the mind stream and not being able to be present. So absorption is kind of like being absorbed by the environment. So you are where you are. So everything around you is absorbing. You can sit and look at a tree and and there's a feeling state to that. Like it can become very blissful. It can become almost drug-like, sort of slightly drunken kind of feeling to it. And almost the more you sit with that, the deeper you can fall into that. Like, so that varies all the time. I think after this, there can be an awful lot of that. It can increase and decrease. And I do think there are certain situations that bring that on, like, but no, of course I wouldn't say I'm going to, do 45 minutes of absorption, but maybe I'll sit in the park for half an hour and there will be a natural dropping into that. And if I look at something, say I look at the lake, there's a lake in the park just down the road here, and that's incredibly absorbing. So it's just it does seem to ramp up. It does seem to automatically do that. Of course, in every case, you can't guarantee it, of course, but pretty much you can, like being on a queue, or not when you're in a hurry, but when there's no kind of hurry or agenda beyond that, there is a more of a dropping into it, being in situations that kind of leave you where there's nothing to do. There's not, all you can do is be there. I think the biggest absorption happens in that. It's the absorption is there all the time anyway. It's just, like you mean, like the depth of this. I don't find meditation necessarily increases it. Like for me, it's unrelated. Absolutely. And there's
but
more.
It sounds
What?
kind of like meditation. It sounds like you're sort of just shutting up and being with whatever is appearing, even if it's daydreams or even if it's whatever. I don't know. I just it kind of sounds like meditation in a way.
Well, I wouldn't say daydreams, because I would say that's the mind. And when I don't know about for you, because you say what that is, like a daydream if that's going on, the absorption levels tend not to be very deep. Like if there's mind stuff going on, and it's not so deep. I mean, there's the oneness that never comes, that goes, that's there all the time. That's just the case, but it'll be cooler. You know, it won't be as, I don't know, womb-like. You know, like, does it? Do you not find? I take it you get absorption states, and do you not find that it goes up? That there are certain situations that amplify that, or?
Yeah, but I don't know what I mean, it seems like driving on the freeway in a very nice sort of, I don't know. It doesn't have to be a beautiful sky, but I don't know, something about being in the car, moving,
Oh yeah.
it tends to kind of do that, but it can happen randomly. Sometimes just around the house, doing chores, folding laundry, you know, stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't know. I just I've heard it, and I've heard you talk about it, and it was never really discussed or defined. But it seems like when you talk about mind states, or it's just difficult to know what the other person's really talking about, because it's kind of an abstract thing where you're describing something that you can't really understand, you know.
And true, but I mean, it's a big part of Kundalini, isn't it, as well? Because, and you know, even without the awakening, people experience bliss states, which is a state of absorption, anyways. You know, so that, I mean, I don't know. To be honest, it's hard for me to speak because of this, because for me, there was awakening, then Kundalini, so you know, sparking off at the same time. But bliss states are absorption, aren't they? Sex can be absorbing. You know, but it tends to be outdoors. Is, I think there's something about nature or being outdoors that is really conducive to this, and it kind of seems intuitive. I mean, it's all the things we think of, or all the things that retreats are based on. Maybe that wouldn't work for me so much. The idea, I don't know, the idea of going on a retreat doesn't really appeal. But the conditions are set up to imitate that, to imitate what does amplify it. But if you don't have it sparked off in the first place, you don't, you know, a retreat or those circumstances are probably not going to spark, you know, they might spark it off, and they might not, but it's that initial spark you can't guarantee. That's the problem, isn't it? Getting it. I'm thinking of like Kundalini or something like that, or after awakening, you know, but that initial spark of the Kundalini, no one can make that happen. And saying that there are some correlations with, you know, heartfelt prayer and meditation and the usual stuff. It's all the usual stuff. Like, I guess that's why everybody's hooked on it, is, you know, but you can be absorbed by the weirdest things. Some paintings do it for me. I think I mentioned that before, like Michelangelo's Virgin on the Rocks. That one, the one that not so many people like. There's two versions of that that's popular. There's a couple that really blow me away, like just bang, you know. It's like you recognize it's coming from the same space, I think, like some of the Van Gogh stuff, or you kind of know, like,
Yeah.
maybe it's William Blake for somebody, but for me, I don't really like William Blake, even though cool people like William Blake. Like, I don't know, but yeah, whoever it is, or words.
Music, I get it. I've been listening to like some Spanish music, and sometimes it really just resonates. It hits a sweet spot, and it just like, whoa, you know, and you get that sort of shift, that sort of absorbs. I mean, it's energetic. I mean, but it's sometimes it's different, you know, and about the Kundalini stuff, like that stuff. I don't know. Like, I started getting like these energetic.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Things like last summer.
Uh-huh.
And so it was and then I was looking at the symptoms, like what is a Kundalini? And they had like a whole list of symptoms or a whole list of like, this is what it's like. And they say, well, you're not going to get all of them, but you might get some of them. And I did get some of them, and I didn't get a lot of them. So I don't know. I don't know what to call it, but there is, like, I was waking up at 3 a.m. with a lot of energy, a lot of like feeling in the chest. It was like pain, it was like burning, but it would also felt good, like in a very weird way. It felt kind of good, and it was like pulsing through the body, and there was like a euphoric sense, and sometimes it would happen at work. I don't know if you remember. I haven't been on here a while because I have a normal job now, and usually Mondays are not good for me. But I used to be on sometimes. I don't know if you remember. I was working in a crystal shop, and I would be in that crystal shop, pretty much like just kind of like blissed out on Kundalini,
Uh,
crying and just hoping that like nobody would come in. You know what I mean? Because I was there in the mornings, so sometimes people would walk in, and I'd just be like sitting there like on my stool, just like staring off. And but yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, I don't know. It didn't check all the boxes, so I don't like talking about it like it's that. But there does seem to be like energy moving, and after this or whatever, around this seeing of like how things kind of are, it tends to, like, I don't know, create like energetic stuff that's random. I've had it. I had it a few weeks ago. It wasn't as intense in the summer. It's funny. One thing that the checklist was saying, and this, when I first read it, I thought it was the most ridiculous thing. It said that when you're going through these Kundalini experiences, that you're going to see snakes. You'll see snakes around. And I was
Right.
like, you're going to see snakes. I was like, what does that mean? I don't believe it. And it's funny that so my daughter, she doesn't live with me. I get her usually on the weekends, but she started going to these arcades, and she started winning a bunch of snake prizes around that time. So
Right,
she
okay.
brought a bunch of little snakes into my room, stuffed animal snakes, and she just left them there around the time. So
Wow,
sure
okay.
enough, there's just snakes on my desks. There's stuffed snakes over here.
Right, okay, so you did see snakes.
And then last week, my little cousin, not my cousin, my nephews came from out of town, and I was having the same stuff, and the kid brought a snake, and he threw it on me. He's like, take that, So it was just,
Yeah.
it's not
I know you've frozen.
anything, but it just it's funny how coincident coughing at it. I was like, that's ridiculous. I was like, that's ridiculous. How are you going to see snakes? Well, the way you see them is kids are going to bring snakes and leave them in your room.
Yeah, no, the
That's how-
synchronicity stuff is incredible. And that's kind of funny. Like a lot of it seems like kind of cosmic jokes, doesn't it? Like
yeah,
just
yeah,
divine humor. Like when you look at, yeah, it does.
yeah. I remember thinking that's ridiculous, and then sure enough, like my desk has a bunch of little snakes, and there's snakes on my couch. So, anyways, yeah. But I don't know. I still feel like I didn't check enough of those boxes, because I mean, apparently some people do hand gestures, and they see things, and they feel things moving up and down their spine. I didn't feel things moving up and down my spine. I felt energy and like tension and burning, but I didn't feel, snakes and spirals or anything like that. None of that stuff.
No,
None
the
of the
phenomena
mudras.
that, yeah, it can be mostly energy, but did you get light, any inner light or anything like that, or no?
I don't know. I think so. I don't know. Like
Okay,
flashing light, like
or just closing your eyes and seeing light, or seeing light in the dark, or anything like that. I mean, that's a
yeah,
different.
yeah. I've seen that stuff. Yeah,
Okay, all right, okay, because that's quite common, isn't it? And
yeah,
probably just like something actually happening, like inner chirping, birds chirping, or the visions, the sort of like, yeah, the sexual stuff, or spontaneous orgasms, or
yeah. That stuff. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bizarre stuff that, the mudras, the hand gestures, and the kriyas, the spontaneous movements, and all the rest. But yeah, it's weird shit, isn't it? It's weird, but yeah,
yeah,
even the
yeah,
energy and the hot and the cold, because you got the hot, the heat, the burning, like it's
yeah.
but it's not normal burning either. Well, I don't know if you experience it like that, because the cool is, but it is cool.
I've had heartburn, I've had indigestion. It was painful, but it doesn't feel like indigestion doesn't cause, euphoric sort of states and, other energetic pulses in the body. So yeah, I mean, I thought at some point I thought, man, maybe I'm sick or maybe, but I don't know. I don't think I was getting sick. I think it was some kind of energetic stuff. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think I'll stop for now. I got to eat my lunch. Maybe I'll hop back in a minute, but thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Anybody else in the Zoom want to ask a question or go back to the chat? All right. What do you think about people who live their lives behind to head over to a mountain to live like a monk for the rest of their lives, believing it's going to lead to enlightenment? Sounds very nice. And I work for monks. But yeah, I don't know about leading to enlightenment. And there's other questions here about cause and effect. So the whole thing is, it's already the case that there's no one here, and all these questions about who. There's never been a who. There's just this life living itself. So a person goes into the mountains and lives like a monk, and I think it's beautiful. I've kind of lived a very minimalistic life myself. But as far as something causing enlightenment, I don't know. And all these questions about what do I say about people who do this, that, and the other thing, I really don't have an opinion on what other people do or what other people say. There's just what's apparently happening. The message is very simple. There is what's apparently happening. That must be the part that people miss. We say nothing ever happened and no one's doing anything. There's no doer, but there is an apparent happening. And I'm not denying the apparent happening. I'm not denying the apparent life that's being lived. I'm not denying there's a body here speaking into a microphone, conducting a Zoom. That still seems to be happening for no one, but it still seems to be happening. So if someone's in a mountain, someone's in a mountain. I don't know what to say about the King Dale's that, what do you say about people who do this or say that? I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me, some of these questions, but that's why I have Don here. What do you say about people who head into a mountain and live like a monk, believing it's going to lead to enlightenment?
Well, there is a personal opinion. Of course, I would feel like that's kind of sad in a way, like you're avoiding, maybe depending on the person, and if you enjoy that in itself, then great. But like you could be up there for your whole fucking life. I mean, what's the point? You're here, like enjoy it, like live your life, have relationships, do stuff you want to do. But if you're stuck in that seeking mode, it just sounds like a checking out. I mean, it doesn't sound healthy to me. I mean, it could be convinced otherwise. But if you're called that way, you're gonna go that way. I mean, your head's in the tiger's mouth. You're gonna do whatever you're gonna, whatever you're called to do, whatever you feel pulled to do. But yeah, it's I like the monk like existence as well. That's how I was quite not. Well, no, I wasn't. I was really heading. I was both. I was kind of both, to be honest. Part monk, part hedonist. I don't know. It's like really mixed up. But yeah, I can understand that urge. Totally understand it. But after awakening, of course, you just if you want it afterwards, yeah, sure. Some people are kind of cold that way, aren't they? And that's beautiful because you just sit, watch the wind and the or the breeze and the grass, or if there's grass up there, maybe there's snow. I don't know, whatever the hell or like, but it's a beautiful image. But yeah, I don't know. I just find it a bit sad because people get stuck, don't they? They get stuck seeking. It's nice to live. I just enjoy living life and having good, friends to see, and relationships and all that stuff. Good food and all the nice stuff, What can you say? You wouldn't want it if someone you cared about, really, would you? Like, go up the mountains for the rest of your life. You'd think, oh no, that's a bit sad. Anyway, but
Do you have any thoughts about the tyrannical worldwide push to totalitarianism? Totalitarianism, am I saying that wrong? From a non-duality point of view.
the worldwide urge towards totalitarianism. What's that got to do with what you want?
Yeah. Again, there's no one doing that. It's just what seems to be happening. To that person who typed the question, I don't see it that way, but yeah.
I don't think if everybody woke up, it would rule that out from continuing. Like if someone's pathological, the same psychology can live out. So someone who's tyrannical, kind of ruler type, could be awake, and if you're repressed, you could be living your life in service to them. I think that can happen because people are caught up in all sorts of power games until they become really, really psychologically aware. If there's a lot of denial, a lot of suppression, a lot of repression there, disassociation, whatever, that's why I don't think waking up is a be all end all, because I know what I after awakening, what I was susceptible to, and the agendas of others and how I fell into things. I was very malleable, and I wouldn't, I'm not saying I'm not malleable now, but I'm much more conscious of what I'm up to, what's going on, what it actually is, putting it in context, and reading other people and staying away from, I don't know, dodgy, dangerous people and so on. But yeah, I don't know if that was the question. I'm answering what question.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. What do you say to people who say you are absolutely responsible for your actions and you have free will? And they also say cause and effect is real, and demonstrate this clearly by boiling an egg. Will you deny what you have just seen in front of your eyes, or will you try to explain to him that everything is an illusion? Well, I would say that there's no cause because there's no causer. It's all one happening. It's like the observer is the observed. There's no separation. There's no separate person boiling an egg. There's just, there's just this apparent boiling of an egg. And that's the way it's seen here anyway, so there's no cause and there's no effect. It's just what's apparently happening, which is not separate. It's one apparent happening. So there's no, it's like, I don't see a separate, when it comes to totalitarianism or whatever we're talking about. There's nobody doing anything. There's nobody boiling an egg, but there's eggs getting boiled by an apparent person, but it's not a separate event. It's not a separate individual in there doing that, you see. It's all one happening. It's all like one, like in a dream, if you boil an egg, it's the one dream. It's one apparent dream. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it's not so much about the illusion, because there's no one being eluded. There's no one being deluded. There's no one seeing an illusion. This body, mind organism is the same apparent illusion as the egg. See, so there's no separation, where the egg and the body are in the dream. So it's not like I'm seeing illusions and this isn't an illusion, seeing illusions. It's all an illusion, including the witness or the viewer of the so-called illusion is also a part of the illusion. So that's what I have to say about that. Cause and effect, boiling eggs. What do you think?
Well, also mention responsibility, and there is such a thing as responsibility in the story of time for the character. I mean, whether responsibility is taken or whether it isn't is another matter. But I mean, if it's, the seeker might see, right, well, nobody's responsible because there's no one, et cetera, and that can lead to people getting away with all sorts of shit. If somebody doesn't take responsibility for their actions in the relative sense, well, that can be dodgy. So in a sense, there is responsibility in the story of time. Yes, you put an egg into a pan of boiling water and put the heat on, it's gonna, yeah. So it is both true and not true. I mean, it seems absurd to deny that. I mean, ultimately nothing is happening, but yeah, what to, if you want to make something happen, you know what to do. It's not a helplessness. It's not a, like, if you put an egg and you've got to do the thing, right? Like, so in the relative sense, yeah, in the story of time, things have effects, things have causes, like someone not taking responsibility, which can be infinitely annoying, or like, it's like, so yeah, you can get those two kind of ways of seeing, those two perspectives mixed up, and normal life continues. It's the the psychological person continues. It may not in terms of the mind may completely collapse, but the personality is still in the body, so things will be acted out, even if they're not thought out, even if they're not felt out. They will continue to be expressed through the physical being, which is here and not here. Like, so you can't get away from it. Like, you can't get away from responsibility. Maybe, but yeah. So I don't know if that clarifies anything.
All right. Any more questions? He says, is that what Tim Kliss meant when he said there's no escape? I don't know. I don't know what Tim Kliss means by that, but there's no escape. Yeah, I mean, there's no one to escape. There's nothing to escape from. There's no, I mean, this is all there is this apparent life. And I don't know how you, what that even means, to escape. It's always this. This seems to be always on. There's no switching it off. So I used to think there could be an escape, through, I thought maybe having a spiritual awakening would be an escape. But life continues. Life is the only game in town, is this apparent life. So yeah, there's the boiling the egg, the person apparently boiling the egg, the water, the eating of the egg after. The whole thing is just one movement, one parent happening, and there's no one in it. There's no one outside of it. It's all there is. So there really is nothing to escape from, and no one to escape from it. So I don't know. You have any thoughts on there's no escape?
Well, I mean, there's no escape from life, and I mean, apart from death, and perhaps there's no escape from death. Yeah, and there's no escape from suffering, which is what you were saying, Walter. Like, there's no escape from that. This isn't an escape from that. I mean, in some cases, it may be an almost total, and it could perhaps be a total escape from that. Who knows? In some cases, but again, the suffering, when it's there, is there, and it's not there, so it's paradoxical too. So, you know, it can be okay and not okay at the same time, but that, in a way, that can be a license not to do anything about the not okay, because the not okay will be the suffering. Like, so, but sometimes there's something you can do about the suffering as well, so it might just be just okay rather than okay and not okay. So, but yeah, there's no escape. This is, you know, it's not, life still goes on. So yeah, and it throws stuff in your face that you don't like, all the, you know, like sometimes change and death are things we are guaranteed, aren't they? And, you know, so yeah, but it will lessen that, of course, because you're living more in presence, you're living more in the now, you're living more here rather than here, and feelings as well, because there's more emotional neutrality as well, and there's non-attachment as well. So that's also good in the sense that the clinging goes, there's no clinging. You know, it's because this isn't real, it's not, it's ultimately, and that goes through the body, that goes through the cells as well. It's, life can't be grasped, nothing in this can be grasped. It's, you know, it's not like a dream. It doesn't mean it's like a dream, not at all, but it's a different thing. It is a different thing. I wouldn't say it's more real or anything, it's just a different, for me, it's a different experience here, and not the same. But yeah, I wish there was an escape. That would be nice. Like some of that total escape.
Yeah. Well, I think the freedom is that there's no one who is in bondage in the first place. That it was imaginary bondage or an imaginary need to escape. But once it's seen that it's all there is, that, you know.
Apart from situation, I mean, certain situations you'll want to escape from, and if you don't, you know, you may be content to stay, but they don't fuck you up mentally and emotionally. They'll get into the cells, like, it's, the body knows what's going on, even if you don't want to, even if you don't need to deal with it, like you don't feel the need to deal with it, because after the awakening, there's a real freedom from that, like, from feeling that you might be someone who really just wants to work on themselves and continue working on yourself, but that's not given. I think after this, there's so much desire just to rest in the peace that's there. Like, it's just, so, you know, it depends. Sorry.
Oh no, I just gotta say, Lucio has his hand raised.
Yeah. So Walter and Dawn, I guess you guys can both answer, but it seems, so I guess my question is, from what I hear, it sounds like the context has completely shifted. When you answer questions, Walter, you pretty much negate the separate self all the time. So the experience that you have is not referring to a long-lasting separate self. So like, do you ever, does that mean that you never create stories are never created or believed in? For example, like for me, like if I get sick, if I start feeling pain, it's very hard for me to feel like the pain's not real, or that, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like it's happening to me. It feels like there's a suffering thing here. I have heard people say that this is the end of suffering. I think I've even heard it on this channel. I guess that depends on how specifically you want to get with that definition, but I'm wondering if you're still able to believe in and create stories, and if there's any kind of condition that'll cause you to contract back into a story such as physical pain or sickness.
No, they're just pain arises. Stories, I mean, it's all a story, right? I mean, the story is that I go to work or I do anything. Everything is just being done. And so pain arises, thoughts arise, actions happen, like that saying goes, actions happen, deeds are done, but there's no individual doer thereof. And there never was an individual doer. So whatever happens for no one. But I don't deny that the happening. I guess that was my point. Like, I don't deny that there's a need to pay rent. There's that there's a body here doing things. I think that's where people get confused, is about the doing. There's just no doer, but there is the apparent doing. There is an apparent life. There is apparent suffering or physical pain or whatever you want to call. Unless you define suffering as identification as the doer, then I would say I'm free from suffering, because there isn't that. There is just life happening. In many ways, the same way it always had been.
So what about desires? Like, is there strong desires for anything?
Sure.
Like what? Like going to see your favorite band or making more money?
Yeah,
or-
all that stuff. Yeah, all the normal stuff. Sure. But the seeking isn't there, which is like to escape or to like reach I had all these concepts about enlightenment and liberation and attainments and being in, just being free from suffering in a way that there is a separate individual there to enjoy being free from suffering. There just isn't a separate individual. There's no separate entity. There's no separate entity to revel in being enlightened. And there's no separate entity to be miserable when things aren't going well. It's just life happening. And yeah, desires, all that stuff. It's just a natural, spontaneous, organic functioning. When
Yeah.
hungry, eat, when tired, sleep. It's just,
And when you're in pain, do you ball up and say, I wish I wasn't in pain. I wish this would end.
I was
dip.
sick last night. I'm still not feeling great, but I was up all night throwing up and everything. I don't remember saying I wish this, I was just like, this sucks, you know, I'm definitely not enjoying that. Yeah, it's still very ordinary.
All right. What
But
about you?
yeah, anyway, yeah, Don.
Well, and the
Thanks.
question of
Thanks, Walter.
the question of desire, I for me, like desire is more background. It can be just as intense. I mean, desire, depending on the desire, can be really intense, right? But it's not, you know, there's the stillness and the peace. So most of the time they're just being where you are, and a desire can arise. It's just not there all the time. And like Walter says, there's no desire to escape. I think the suffering one is often heard as there's no suffering because there's no one to suffer. And then I think a lot of seekers hear it like there's no suffering. I mean, pain. I mean, there's no collapse into pain. Because there's a lack of the self doesn't come back in pain here. Like there's no coming back. There's none of that. But God, when there's pain, I want it to be gone. Pain is fucking awful. It's, you know, my pain threshold isn't great. Like I don't like it at all. And it is such a constricting energy in a sense, like, because you're so absorbed in that, like, you know, it's so, yeah, I mean, that's probably the worst of all, isn't it? Physical pain. And but the emotional pain as a CM center is the physical as well in the brain. Like it's interesting, isn't it? But you know,
Yeah, they're definitely connected very closely.
I'd rather have the emotional
Physical.
one, but I better not say that to, you know, but yeah, it's definitely not the end of desire. Like, but thank God it's not. I mean, desire's good. I mean, I wouldn't want to be hooked on that, whereas I was before. I think I was much more following that all the time. Whereas, like, I think it depends where that comes from, isn't it? It comes from escape from some other kind of escape from suffering as well, going into something intoxicating or exciting, getting away from the internal pain, particularly if it's depression or, you know, which yeah, I used to do for sure, and it seemed to work a treat. But then you mess yourself up in other ways. Like it's you always come back to that, but like in some ways it works in the short term, like, you know. But yeah, it's all misleading the way we talk about this, isn't it? Like somebody will always get the end of the stick and then turn it into a thing, and
it can be anything. Anybody can make anything they want out of it. People can read whatever they want. People can read, like, for example, they can conflate desire with seeking to seeking an outcome or seeking to end suffering or something like that. Which, I mean, I was kind of just left it open-ended to see kind of how you answered it. But I mean, I don't know. For me, like, there seems to be less seeking outcomes and more just seeking something interesting or something new, something that's without the desire to gain something necessarily. You know what I mean? There's just desire to try things and just to speak with people, but not to speak with people with some sort of intention of like learning or helping or whatever. There just seems to be like attraction to try new things, or, you know, to go for a walk or to play or whatever. But there's no there's less of a this will help me feel better, or if I do this then I'll get this, and it's adding to some sort of process where I'm moving towards a goal or whatever. I don't know.
Well, do you know what? I'd love some outcomes. Fuck the journey. I want some fucking results, but there can be that as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that can exist too. I mean, like I say, yes, because I mean the presence is there too. That, you know, I set an intention the other day. There's certain things I want to achieve. You know, like, but you know, and I wouldn't say in the moment that can be very important. Like it can, you know. Of course, you can't make that happen, but it's just again, I just feel like that's something that's said, and I find myself saying it, and I'm thinking, is that true? Well, if something came up recently, I'm thinking, fuck that, I want that, and I want it now, and I don't know. But what about
Yeah.
you? So you get desires are still arising, and
Yeah, they're still arising for sure.
is that good? Is that, I mean, do you like that, or maybe it's neither good nor bad, or
It's good, but it's like it seems to just point back to, like, how can I say this? It usually is just pointing back to where I'm clinging to identity or to a story. Yeah. So I don't know.
so you don't feel
It's
like the
hard.
whole you don't feel like the whole thing's been seen, then that it's over, game set match for you, like the seeking's not ended, or because I
I
thought,
don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
okay, because it's in, that's right, you in your own talks, because you do stuff, don't you, and it's in processes, like you're still figuring it, are you still figuring it out, like, kind of, or
I guess. I mean, it certainly sounds that way.
well, it doesn't mean to say it's true for you, like it doesn't, it might sound that way, and like I can, anybody can say that, and
I don't know. It's tough to try to pinpoint.
okay,
Um, a lot of the things that people say happen after realization. I feel that a lot of those things happen, but then some people are like, well, it never comes back and this never happens again. And I don't know. For me, like, anything can happen. But but it's similar to Walter, where it's like all that stuff is happening within a different context. It's not necessarily happening to me, but it is still happening in some way. The appearances are still there. The pain is still there. Sometimes the guilt still comes up, or stuff like that will come up. It does seem to kind of fall away very quickly. Like the pattern of clinging to it neurotically, like that seems to have gone away. But sometimes they do happen still. What else? God, I was going to say it, but then I lost it. Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know.
it can be hard to put in your own words sometimes, like all the complexity of this, if you really look at it, like, and I think it does take some daring sometimes as well, like to really admit or to see what's going on for you, or to how am I actually experiencing it, because every time you think, I think it changes, or you see something about, it's almost like life seems, well, here, like it seems like life throws something up and it's like, oh wow, now it's like this, or no, it's like that, it's fascinating. It's
Here's what I was gonna say. And this is one that I've heard. I don't know, maybe the Buddhists said it or something, but they said that before enlightenment, mountains are mountains, and then during enlightenment, mountains are no longer mountains, and then after, they're mountains again. Well, I feel like sometimes they're still not mountains, and I'm still kind of floating in a sort of a unknowing, sort of weird. It's like there's no I don't know. There's no strong desire to put my mental energy into. There's no like goal story being formed or believed in. It seems like the ability to like create a story and believe it is not really there. And that's kind of concerning, but on the other hand, I'm working full time. I'm out, I do have a social life, I'm busy, I'm living a fairly good life, so it's not like I'm just isolated in my room not doing shit. So I don't know, it feels, it does have a strange quality to it, because
Frozen. Come back.
I feel like I'm going anywhere, but all these things are still happening. I'm still going to work, I'm still hanging out with friends, or going dancing, or being with my daughter, and it's not happening within like a context of like, this is what I'm doing and this is where I'm going and these are the plans. It's just, I don't know, it has a weird flavor to it.
I think it is disconcerting that stories, I mean, it is just a story, and the mountains aren't mountains, and yet mountains appear, but it's not the same. It isn't real. It's absolutely not there as well. Like, it's, I think there's a getting used to that, and it becoming, like, and I think it took me a long time, because I just find it, I find it really odd talking about stuff, and even visually, like, I think particularly initially, like, nothing does look like what it is. Like, it seems paper thin. The whole thing seems like so unreal. Like, it just becomes more normal. But yeah, I get, it sounds like you're healthy, in a healthy space and stuff, and yeah, and it's good, and you're doing all that. Like, I don't know. It's really different. I think it's just really, really different, and yeah.
It's like I kind of missed the stories, but the last time I started believing stories, I believed in all the wrong ones, and and I got myself into a weird sort of depression or whatever. So I don't know.
Oh, I know what you mean. It's not exactly, I wouldn't say I miss the stories, but it's odd that they're not there. Like, it's odd that there's nothing to them, that they are just that, as well as life being like it isn't without the love there. Like, I can see how emptiness is not a great place to be stuck without the fullness of love, like, because I mean, I was for a while, but it's just, there's nothing for you in that. There's no gain in that. Like, there is in the love, in a sense, because intimacy is really nice, but it's not for anyone. Like, it, even that feels kind of strange in a way, like, because it's not adding. Like I think I said before, like, it felt like everything added, good stuff seemed to add something to me, or I could in some sense grasp hold of that, like, kind of, but everything's lost in a way. It's just, I don't know, freedom, I suppose, but I don't know. It's just,
Yeah, it's a little bit concerning. That's all. It's I don't know. It's a little bit concerning, just because I guess mountains aren't mountains right now a lot of times. So
okay.
it's I don't know. Maybe I just need to stop watching all the videos and
Stop watching
try
the
to
video.
maybe find something else to watch, because I do kind of like, I don't watch movies, I don't watch shows. I like watching this stuff like this, and maybe music is usually what I watch. So maybe I need to like dial that down, or start meditating or something. Who knows?
Oh,
Who knows?
videos make you ill.
But anyways, thank you for your input. I'll mute myself. Nice to see you guys.
I see you.
Nice to see you. All right, we got more questions in the chat. Somebody says, I wouldn't recommend anyone to believe in things that they can't understand or are against their own experience. That will drive you mad. Or believe in something against your own experience. I don't know.
Well, it's not about belief, is it?
No. Do non-duality people ever get drawn back into the life story?
course not. Never.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like there's just no separate self. There's no separate entity. To get drawn back, to not get drawn back, to have a me fall away, to not have a me fall away. It's just, we call this not just this, but it really is just this. It's whatever's appearing. It's whatever this apparent person seems to have access to, like the person's talking about experience, whatever thoughts are arising, whatever's in front of you, basically, whatever memories are popping into your head, or this is all that there is for the apparent person. So I don't think about getting drawn back into a story, it's just, if I'm fully engaged and wrapped up in something, then that's what's just apparently happening. But there's no one doing that. There's no one has ever done that. So it's not like this is some kind of attainment that you get, that you don't get involved in a story. If there never was a separate individual in the first place to get involved in a story or to not get involved in a story, and that is seen by no one, then it really doesn't matter. It's just what's happening. And that's the way it's seen here, that it's not about living a higher existence or being in an elevated state. There's just no one in a state. It's just what's arising spontaneously and naturally, organically. So, when I was sick last night, I didn't want to be sick, but I wasn't obsessed with it. I was just fully sick. There was no one here, but there was just body throwing up. And I don't know that, yeah, I guess there's not a lot of attachment to stories now I think of it, but that's not what this is about. In my view, it's just saying that there never was. It's not about what you can get if you understand this teaching. It's just pointing out that nothing's ever changed, nothing's ever happened. It's just always been whatever is being experienced in this moment. Is all there is for no one, and there's no one doing anything. Another question. So another Tim Cliss reference. He said there's an analogy. If there's a tree that falls, but no one's there, doesn't make a sound. He went a step further and said that the street you apparently live on right now, it doesn't exist until you verify it yourself. Do you agree with this? I've heard things like that.
It's unknowable, and yes, okay, the tree falling needs an ear to hear it, etc., etc. I don't know, it's really more simple than that. Yes, I mean, in a sense, life goes on as normal. Is it there? Is it not there? Who knows? Who cares? There's only real what's appearing. It's real and unreal. We don't know what this is. Whether it's mathematics or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. I think it makes it more complex. It's not really. I'm not that interested in those questions. Does the tree make it? Yeah. No,
Yeah.
in a way, it doesn't really make a noise, does it? Without, you to hear it. I mean, it's all co-created, isn't it? Sound, how that's experienced, and it's really quite. What do you think?
Yeah, it's very conceptual, yeah. But yeah, none of that stuff means anything to me either. Is the moon there when you're not looking at it? You know? I mean, there's no moon, there's no looker. It's all one appearance, one simultaneous arising. So yeah, the street appears when you appear to look at it. You created it. Not you, but it is created through looking at it. Same as the sound, you know, if it wasn't for these eardrums and, you know, you need the observer, you need the hearer, but there's just hearing, there's just seeing, there's no seer, there's no hearer. And it is at one with the street, with the moon, with, you know, I use this example, Adi Ashanti said, he started looking at everything because he felt this oneness, unicity with all things. And he went and looked at the toilet because he figured that was something that maybe he wouldn't be at one with. And so he looked at that, but he felt at one with that too. And really there's no separation. And when that occurred here, there was no need to look at the moon because I just knew that there was no separation. There was just no separation. There wasn't a need to verify that. So the street and this body are the same appearance. It's just as clear as day. It all arises from this no thing. So the next question. If you still feel located in your body, then you're just fooling yourself that the sense of me is no longer there. Yeah, there's no one feeling they're located in their body. There's no feeling of being located in a body, and there's nothing located in the body. And there's no one being fooled. And if someone does feel that way, that's also just what's apparently happening to no one. You know, it's not a higher fucking position to see there's no one here. It's still just what's apparently happening. It's still just the same illusion. If we're all in the stream and some people feel like separate selves and some don't, it's still the same dream. There's no, you know, like I say from the Course in Miracles, no hierarchy in illusions. There's no, yeah, so I don't see the so-called non-duality speaker and the seeker as separate or as different. They're both appearances. There's no one who achieved seeing there's no one here. And there's no one who needs to see this. Anyway, what do you think about that? Locality, feeling located in the body.
That's never come back here. And I can't imagine how that, I mean, that's the thing that seemed to collapse. I've heard one or two speakers talk about that returning. It hasn't returned here. That's why I say, and I can't imagine what it is that would possibly return to give you that sense of location. It's gone. That's why would there be something here? I mean, it's all one. So like, I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know. I just know how it is here. And that's all I'm going to say on that one. Like,
Okay, well, we're out of time. So would you like to say anything in closing? Let people know where to find you, where you're speaking next, anything like that?
Well, it's next on the 12th of this month, so not this Friday, but next Friday in London in the Philadelphia Association. You can check it out on meetup.com. Non-duality with Don Garland. So you're all welcome. It's £10 from 7 to 9 p.m. British time. So that's about it. I think I said that last week, but yeah, that's all. And next week, next Monday.
Great. Yeah, we do these every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. British time.
Yep.
That's correct. But I think the last one of the month is not going to happen because I'm going to be away. But I will keep you posted and I will announce that properly. And just to let you know, some upcoming things on this channel, 7 p.m. tonight, Eastern time. We got Roger Castillo. Welcome to join us for that. Ask questions. Monday, May 8th. Chuck Hillig at 10 a.m. Eastern. Monday, May 15th, Howard Chance, 10 a.m. Monday, May 22nd, David Hoffmeister at 9 a.m. And that's as far as I'll go for now. But yeah, so just stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe. And even though there's no one there, you can still donate if you're willing and able to. And just thank you all for being here. And we'll see you next week. Same time, same channel. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.